Hey, this is Joey Mulinaro, and you better keep it here because you're listening to The Barn. That's right, The Barn.
Hi, and welcome to The Barn, live from the Barn Studio in Southeast Missouri. You got the Mox here. We're joined with a special guest online right now. We have Mr. Joey Mulinaro, I should say. Media personality, comedian, impressionist, content creator. Got a lot of titles to that name. Joey, how are you, man?
I'm good. It is good to be on with you. And South Central, you said, Missouri? Or Southwest? What did you say?
Southeast Missouri.
I missed all of them. All right, Southeast Missouri. It's good to talk to you, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate it. We're pretty close to the St. Louis area, and you are going to be playing Helium Comedy Club Thursday, September 28th at 8 p.m. We're looking forward to having you in town, man.
Oh, yeah. I'm very excited about it. I haven't been out to St. Louis in a long time. I stopped in there on the way to the Ozarks for a bachelor party last year.
Okay.
We stopped off to have lunch. I think it was at the Anheuser-Busch Museum area, if I remember correctly. Anyways, we had some good beer and we had some good wings. And I'm looking forward to being back more towards the fall here during September.
With you being a Cubs fan, is that an issue? Do you have to skip town often, or do you not wear your Cubs stuff when you come to town, I guess?
I would wear the Cubs stuff. You know, I think it's good to have a healthy rivalry, and you got to be able to separate the art from the artist a little bit. So I hope that people don't hold it against me too much that I'm a Cubs fan. I was born and raised in Indy, and my dad just grew up with WGN all the time, and so that's what I grew up with when it was still going, and that's just the games we had on all the time when I was growing up, right? So that's how it rolls. But hey, I'm not going to come to the town and rip on the team or rip on the town. You know what I mean? I'm coming to town to have fun, have a good time, and hopefully make some people laugh. So don't hold it against me, folks. I hope to see you out there.
Yeah, and I feel like, we take pride in all the visiting teams and their fans. We try to treat them with respect. There is that, you almost have to have that villain in your story, right? You have to have that opposing team that you just hate. I think it makes the story much better. Being a Cardinals fan, not as happy with it this year because we are not doing so well. But, we try to treat you with respect when you come to town.
Yeah, man, this is like, no pun intended with the bird thing, but this is like seeing a rare bird out in the wild somewhere this season for the Cardinals. Like, I'm not used to this. I can't even remember, I feel like, the last time when the Cardinals were selling at the deadline and the Cubs weren't. When the Cubs were winning the World Series, going to the NLCS and beating the Cardinals in the playoffs. I mean, obviously the Cardinals, they were still winning the division and, they were still, making a push in the playoffs and everything. So this is wild, I can't celebrate too much because the Cubs are only 4 games up on, over 500. But the way the last few years have gone for the guys on the north side of Chicago, it feels like a win. So I'm thoroughly enjoying it right now. I can't lie. It does feel pretty good to have the Cardinals for once to not be, just dominating and making moves and making the push through October, because I hear about it all the time, all the rings and all the flags and all the postseason success. I get it. But it's just nice to win one time here with you guys kind of being down. So I'm sure you'll bounce back next year, though.
I mentioned off the top that you're a man of many titles. Obviously, I would say most of your followers and fans know you from, going viral. Is that what happened? What was going viral like for you?
Yeah, man. I've been kind of at this for a while, just doing podcasts and working in the media and putting out sketches and videos. And, it was just like basically all to like the amusement of my dad and my grandma. Right. And nothing was working. Nothing was clicking really. And then all of a sudden, I just kept cracking at it. And then November of 2019, Thanksgiving 2019, put out a Nick Saban at Thanksgiving video. And that really took off and got me on like a bunch of the major platforms and raised my following from like 1,000 to like 10,000. And I was like, holy cow, I've made it. This is the greatest day ever. To answer your question, man, like I've always wanted to do this. Like I've always wanted to be in entertainment. I've always wanted to be in comedy and doing what I'm doing now. It was just getting my foot in the door, like getting that audience. And when I got that audience, it was just about growing the audience and making sure people are coming back and saying, hey, if it's not an impression, he does this, funny coach video, or he does this teacher video, or he makes fun of weddings and just stuff to make people laugh, man, have a good time. So that was November of 2019. And now here we are, 4 years later almost, and, doing a little mini comedy tour.
As far as like impressionists go, you have to obviously bring up Frank Caliendo, which I know you've done some things with him as well. But one of my favorites is like Jim Brewer, and he's doing all these, Ozzy bits and Tracy Morgan. But they always kind of say that the content, the actual jokes within the impression is just as important as the actual impression. Would you agree to that?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, that was, when I started out and people kind of started following me, it was mostly just impressions at the time, because I, hadn't broken out yet in terms of like my comfort zone, if you will. But still within that, I always tell people like I'd spend half, if not over half the time putting the impression video together, of coming up with the scenario, of coming up with the setting that the character's in, of coming up with the lines that they're going to say in that scenario, all to then on the icing on top, do the impressions. So, I like to think that it's just like, comedy is the art of observation, and impressions are no different. And so it's just all about observing that person and taking in what you can do to where like, oh, that could be funny if I, worked it this way, or had them say this, or, put them in this scenario. So it's huge, dude. Absolutely. I mean, like, Dana Carvey, he's one of my favorites too, and a guy that I always looked up to, still do. And, he always talks about how not only on top of it with the writing, but then just like making it more of almost an animation, like a caricature, rather than just a straight on impression, so like, and Frank talks about that too, but like having fun with it and really kind of getting wacky with it in a bit, because eventually if you just keep like doing the same impression and sounding just like him or whatever, it kind of gets boring. But if you really develop the impression of a person into almost its own character that's an impression, then you can really have some fun with it. So, hey, man, it's all, it's all process. It's all a work, put together in time, and I enjoy the hell out of it.
Do you purposefully stay away from some of the ones that like everybody does? I remember Dana Carvey talking about that he would try to find, impressions that maybe not everybody was doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there are ones that a bunch of people are going to share. And it's weird because when you do impressions, even though you're trying to have the same end goal as, just doing comedy where you're making people laugh, people aren't as protective over the impression as they are like a bit. You know what I mean? Like you can't go up there and just like take someone's bit and reenact it or use some material in that way, which makes sense. But I try to include that in impressions as well. And I just think that like people are going to take more notice of it if it, from my experience, if it's someone who they're like, oh, wow, I didn't even think about them being somebody to do an impression of, but you did it and you sounded like them, like it was funny. So that's a big part of it too, is staying away from some of those, but then also like really kind of like waiting it out to just be like, all right, I'm gonna wait it out. I'm not gonna force anything. And then all of a sudden, oh, this person comes about. That's a new coach or a new media personality or a new actor or something like that not that many people have done. And then you get the audience, whether it's the following or the crowd of the show. It's like, oh my God, I didn't even think about that. So it kind of works on multiple levels.
Your impressions of, Nick Saban, Cris Collinsworth, Sean McVay, Mel Kiper. But my favorite that you've been doing here lately is the high school football coach. And my question is, it is so damn accurate. So I'm a football guy, grew up playing and all that. I'm a football coach, been around football coaches. It's so damn accurate. Do you have a like personal experience? Did somebody in your family were they a high school football coach, or were you just around it enough to kind of, catch those things?
Yeah, I was just around it. I didn't play any high level football at all. I just grew up playing, Catholic grade school football and then high school football, and that was it. But still, it's such an all-American kind of like universal experience, if you will, with that particular instance that, just worked, even though I didn't have to play college football or the NFL. Almost works better because such a vast majority of people got the chance to play youth football or high school football, so that relates to an even bigger audience, so that's just what I try to do, is whether it's the football coach or, like I said, a teacher or a relative that you may have, or I don't know, like stuff with weddings or just these kind of universal common experiences that everybody can go through. And even if it's not exactly their coach that they had, there's something that people would be able to latch onto and be like, yep, been there, absolutely. And this reminds me, it's not my coach, but it reminds me of, Coach Mark or whoever it was. So yeah, that's the backstory there, man. I get a lot of different coaches of mine that I had actually, that if I see them around town, because I still live in the town that I was born and raised in, if I see them around town, they'll kind of be like, is that me? Who was that? Was that Coach Burton? I'm like, yeah, it was kind of a mix of everybody. So I take different things from different coaches and kind of mesh them all together into one.
Man, it works. I'll tell you what, the accuracy, I think that's the funniest part about it, is the accuracy. And I even seen somebody retweeted you and said the okay after every sentence. You're saying something to the team and it's like, okay, and then you move on. Yep. Okay, just the accuracy of that's hilarious.
Thank you, man.
You mentioned kind of living in the Indy area, and I know you're actually a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, though.
Yes. And
not a Colts fan. How did that come about? How did you become such a diehard Pittsburgh fan?
Yeah, I mean, I have everything in my life on multiple fronts because of my dad, my parents. So my dad, just growing up in the 70s, it was a very different time back then for a bunch of reasons. But like I said, the Cubs, the Indianapolis didn't have a professional Major League Baseball team, and he didn't have a professional football team until 1984. And so when my dad was growing up, you had the Cubs on WGN all the time, and when he was in prime time coming of age for football, the Steelers were the Steelers of the 70s.
Oh, wow.
And so it's like, I don't got a team here in my hometown to root for. I like these guys with Terry Bradshaw and Mean Joe Green and Franco Harris and Lynn Swann. And, so he went that route. And then funny enough, my uncle, his little brother is like 3.5, 4 years younger than him. And he went the Cowboys route, and he still roots for the Cowboys to this day. So same story there, man. Yeah, I get asked it a lot. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple when it comes down to it. It's just at that time, and that's what worked for him. And then I just grew up in that house and kind of knowing nothing different, and fell in love with it myself.
You've obviously worked with some heavy hitters in the content world and in the radio world. Pat McAfee's worked for and with Pat McAfee, Howard Stern, Barstool Sports. Can you tell us a little bit about your time working with those?
Yeah, man. Wow. Dream come true for sure. I try to always remind myself of kind of like I said, when I was, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. And I was just kind of, pushing out content and making stuff that felt like it was just for my dad and my grandma and my mom. I felt like those were the only people who noticed or who liked it. And then all of a sudden, all these things start happening. And then funny enough, I actually met my wife while I was working for Pat McAfee back in 2017. So not only was it really cool and a dream to work for a guy like that and an outlet like that, but also it benefited me personally very much. So met her. We've been married for almost 4 years. We have a son together who's almost 1. So all good things there. And then Barstool, same thing. I mean, I kind of came of age listening to Big Cat, PFT, Pardon My Take, and following Caleb and all those guys. And so just you had to kind of pinch yourself to be like, wow, I work for the biggest sports comedy website, the outlet in the world, and just pitch myself stuff, man. I mean, like I said, I'm just a kid from the south side of Indy and just always want to make people laugh. And then, this year, the Howard Stern opportunities have come along, and excited to be doing more work with them coming up this fall. And I mean, how I tweeted about it when I was 19 and I was a freshman in college. I tweeted Howard Stern is my idol. And because I was just coming across kind of all his career and his interviews and his entertainment and his show, and I just was like, man, that dude is amazing. And so the fact that I get to do work for his show is another just it's insane. I mean, it's absolutely insane. So very lucky, very blessed, and just excited to keep doing it, man.
We are big Stern fans here as well. We're going to be catching you at the Helium Comedy Club Thursday, September 28th at 8 p.m. Joey Mulinaro will be in the house. We can't wait to have you in town, Joey. Appreciate your time today.
Thanks so much, man. Great talking to you. Yeah, tickets are available. officialjoeymulinaro.com. All of my social media channels, just at Joey Mulinaro. You can find them there. And can't wait to come have some fun with St. Louis, man. Thanks.